Hello everyone, before we start this video, a quick message about a new fundraiser. Any donations would be greatly appreciated. And the Ukraine.volunteer.center is going to give some prizes to the biggest donations. So that's a trophy uniform of an occupant, and for second place a signed flag from the brigade.
Доброго дня! На зв'язку Український добровольчий центр. На жаль, 3 дні назад ми втратили 5-тонну вантажівку, тому зараз ми оголошуємо новий збір на вантажівку мікроавтобус, так як правильно побудована логістика – запорука успішності бойових дій. Грузовик нам потрібен для перевезення великої кількості боєкомплекту, медицини і інших вантажів на бойові позиції, а мікроавтобус для перевезення маленьких вантажів між позиціями і поранених військових або цивільних людей. Також потрібні 2 інверторні генератори для аеророзвідки хлопцям на запорізькому направленні. Всі звіти по донатам будуть викладені після збору. Також, як завжди, буде відеозвіт. Велике дякую, що ви нам допомагаєте перемогти в цій кривавій війні, що почала Росія. Слава Україні!
Hello everyone. So with Ukraine's counteroffensive in the Zaporizhia region in full swing, I thought I'd take a look at just what Ukraine is up against. So here's an image showing the layers of Russia's defences. So you can see many trenches and positions spanning the Zaporizhia region to defend against Ukraine's ongoing counteroffensive. Some of these are big, long, deep defensive trench lines, others are smaller emplacements. I'll have a look at this defensive layer in more detail later. First of all, Brady Afik on Twitter has done an excellent job mapping Russia's defensive line with the trenches and positions highlighted in red. So the area of Ukraine's push in the south is full of various defensive fortifications, so it's a tough nut to crack. Kherson region, there's less of them. But an offensive was always unlikely to come from there, because the Dnipro River, which is a significant obstacle which would need crossing, and Russia themselves learnt how difficult that was to cross. And especially now that the Novokakhovka Dam has been destroyed and the area flooded, making a crossing even harder. Before we have a look at the typical trench layout, here's a view from deep states with the highlighted areas of some of the confirmed counteroffensives. So what do these formations consist of? Well, this satellite image here, again shared by Brady Afik, shows defensive lines near Tokmak. So we can see a big long trench followed by a triple row of dragon's teeth and then a large fortification with defensive berms and firing positions. Now these dragon's teeth get mocked, and there was a video a while ago of a Challenger tank with a plough easily pushing one out of the way. But they are an obstacle. Again, we've seen videos of individual ones being pushed aside, but we don't know how easy a field of multiple ones like this will be to clear. And while these are being cleared and moved, Ukraine's armoured vehicles will be stationary and easy pickings for Russian artillery and Russian drones. Not to mention that the fields and the land in between is very likely heavily mined, and these type of fortifications are all across Zaporizhia and Kherson district. So this isn't going to be a quick blitz through. It's going to be tough, contending with minefields, trenches which need crossing, dragon's teeth which need moving, infantry trenches that need clearing, all while artillery drones and close air support target the Ukrainian forces. Let's have a look at another image. This one is a photo taken from the ground, so we can see that these trenches not only have the trench itself, but a large earthen mound to contend with, so yet another obstacle. It does seem like it may be fairly easy to push the dirt into the trench, depending on which side of the trench it has been placed. But it's still an obstacle and will still further delay progress, allowing for artillery to strike. This trench here is near Melitopol and spans 70 kilometers. Here's a few images of it from Sentinel-3 satellites showing its scale. And this is just one of many trenches. Some of them are long ones like this, some of them are short, but they're all obstacles which will block up the Ukrainian advance, giving Russia time to get their artillery zoomed in or launch a drone. These next images were put together by Pasi Purainen on Twitter. He has taken a look at the defensive network in the Kopane, Robotyne, and Tokmak area in Zaporizhia. This is an area where Ukraine has been launching one of its counteroffensives, if you'll recall. It was north of here where the Leopard 2 was hit a couple of days ago by artillery, and Tokmak incidentally would be a very fine target for Ukraine to aim for. So here, he has highlighted Russia's trench network, and as you can see, it's pretty substantial. Many trenches and fortifications guarding the entrance to and from many of the towns in this area, including some very large fortifications, such as south of Nova, for example. North of Robotina, there is a major defensive line. Furthermore, Zaporizhia points out that these defences are constructed along heights and ridge lines, giving Russia an advantage there. They extend 25 to 30 kilometres from the front line to Tokmak itself. Inex shared this image showing that there are multiple layers of defence. The first one is 3 to 4 kilometres from the front line and consists of individual platoon outposts and company strongpoints. Zone 2 is where things may get messy. A 2 to 3 kilometre deep defensive line of trenches and strongpoints arranged along high terrain in a big line. Russia is constantly working on improving and expanding this. Perinen points out that Kapani and Robotina form part of this position. Moving to deep states briefly, here is their two towns' positions. So 4 to 5 kilometres from the front lines north of Tokmak itself. Tokmak is about 30 kilometres from the front. Moving on, Zone 3 is about 4 or 5 kilometres deep. This includes reserve positions and is where many artillery pieces are located to provide fire support to the first defensive line. Zone 4, a main defensive line. This is described as a multi-layered trench line featuring anti-tank ditches and dragon's teeth, not to mention a high likelihood of minefields. Here are some satellite imagery. So this one is north of Robotina. It's a 500 metre wide trench in a tree line, with more trenches being constructed. So it heads east to west along the trees, then north to south a bit, with another east to west trench being constructed, providing a double layer of trenches. This is located here on the map, north of Robotina. This next image shows a long defensive trench constructed in a tree line running north to south, with a pair of large outposts for defence. This is shown here, shown by the marker to be north of Robotina. The blue box shows the trench which we have just looked at previously. There are many satellite images up online, so I'm not going to go through them all because it would be too long a video, but I will take a look at this one here. These are images taken of a defensive fortification about 11 kilometers from the front line, near a settlement called Soladka Balka. This is a multi-layered defensive trench. It features anti-tank ditches, dragon's teeth, mines, and a depth of 2 to 3 kilometers of multiple trench lines. So a very significant obstacle. I remember, again, while crossing this, Ukraine will be targeted by Russia's artillery and drones. Here's its location on Google Maps. So it's south of Robotina, north of Tokmak. Now this does paint a pretty bleak picture, so now some positive news. Ukraine has been smashing Russia's logistical chain hard, both for storage depots with Storm Shadow and HIMARS, and also the supply trucks with drones and standard artillery. Not to mention HIMARS strikes on train depots and railway infrastructure. Russia's logistical line is notoriously shaky, and for the size of their army, they don't have many supply trucks. The true number is unknown, but it's in the tens of thousands, which may sound high, but by comparison, the US's own logistical fleet is in the hundreds of thousands of vehicles. So Russia's logistics fleet is very small for the size of its army. A large part of this is because Russia relies on its rail network for logistics and supply, and they do have a very good rail network. So you have to think smashing the railways and bridges is a key priority for Ukraine. However, the railways are limited. They can't reach very near the front line, so there is a big weakness there. If Ukraine can keep hitting the storage depots hard, like they have been doing with Storm Shadow and HIMARS, and also picking away at these supply trucks and utility trucks, ferreting ammunition, fuel and that sort of thing near the front and to these trenches, it's going to have a significant impact on Russia's operations. If these logistics lines can be hit, then that will lessen the use of Russia's artillery, and of course the soldiers in the trenches. They can't shoot if they don't have ammunition, and the soldiers can't fight if they don't get food. So hitting these supply lines and the logistics chains is a must. Ukraine had great success with this early in the war, in the region of Kyiv for example. So they have proven that they are very good at targeting the logistical chain, and I do think this is what Ukraine is going to be doing here if they want to have success in the counteroffensive. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting. If so, please click like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thanks again, and take care everybody.